Today I'm here with my good buddy, Gary Cardone, who is the bomb. Gary, thank you for coming on the show.
Good to be here, my man.
So I like to start off our conversations because I believe that when you're born and when you grow up and when you grew up in that certain time period kind of affects your outlook on life. And so, for example, I think for a lot of Americans, we remember our first president. And when I say remember our first president, I kind of remember George Bush as my president. Like I was in middle school, if that tells you my age, when George Bush was president. I am part of the generation that barely remembers 9/11. So for me, Obama was really my first president. Obama was the first guy who I was cognizant enough to understand, oh, there's some guy leading, making decisions in the country that's having a real impact on my life, so to speak. You see him on the news. And of course, Obama was one of the first people, I think, to really have a social media strategy. So what was kind of that president for you, and how did that kind of shape your perspective on things going forward?
Well, I think it must have been I didn't realize you were that young, by the way. You speak
Yeah.
so eloquently. Bailed myself out of that one. Yeah. It had to be Kennedy, right? I remember Kennedy being killed, the whole assassination thing. And the next time I would have that same sense would be 9/11. Well, no, it'd be Princess Diana and then 9/11. Wow. But because I was living in London at the time, but the Kennedy thing really impacted me. But I was really young, maybe 7, 6.
So that was kind of like, oh, your parents are upset about something big and maybe you don't understand it, but you kind of do.
Well, you knew the whole world was upset about something. And then you saw little kids my age at the time losing their dad. And then I would lose my dad. So it became very real. But I think the next president would be the Nixon. And then, this is in the mid 70s, right? I actually think we're almost cycled through it. It feels like we're going through the 60s again, like the whole Vietnam, reject the man. We're just gone too far. It almost feels like this 100-year cycle to me. But it would have been Nixon with all the hokey pokey that was going on there. And then Reagan, right? Then Reagan, correct?
It was Nixon, yeah. Then he stepped down. So then it was the guy after him who parted Nixon, which was Ford.
Yeah.
And then after Ford, I think was Carter, and then Carter, Reagan, then Clinton, if I have that correct.
Yeah. So you could see how I skipped Carter and Ford, because for me, I was a teenager. It didn't really matter. There was a monster recession showing up. But, the era I grew up in, Sam, it became very, very, people began not trusting the politicians. I think, that really was a JFK thing with, that scene is pretty, somebody, hurt the president of the United States, killed the president of the United States. And then, the whole Nixon thing and just a degradation, I think, of trust of the politicians over a long period of time. It seems to be getting worse, sadly.
What's kind of interesting is even the time span between us, but you and I both grew up on the cusp of some kind of national tragedy. And then following that is a period of turmoil. And maybe maybe everyone who lives through life has that experience in some way, shape, or another. But from the Kennedy assassination to 9/11, I mean, those are two pretty big deals. And then, of course, your Nixon moment of him getting impeached. Well, I lived through the Obama to then Trump transition. I mean, so when Trump first got elected, I was in college, right? And that's when really I started realizing, oh man, what is going on in the world? I need to get my stuff together and start paying attention, right? And of course, things have just gone from there. But do you think that's actually cyclical, what we're seeing currently? Or do you think this is maybe even more extreme than what we've seen in your lifetime?
I think the extremity is one tied to social media and the interconnectivity that technology's allowed us to have access to almost everything, right? I mean, we're seeing markets now, wars unveil in real time by citizen journalism. Seems to me mainstream media is actually being disintermediated faster than the financial industry through what I call decentralized solutions sitting on a centralized platform. The example would be you and me on X Spaces. But you're collecting a whole lot of sales of information from various sources, many, if not most, all of them not being paid by the system.
Yeah.
This is new business, right? New economics. I think we're going through a digital economic reshuffle where most of the transactions are going to be micro transactions. And because you're renting most everything in the future, I think that's right too. We should be renters. We should use as we should consume as we use it. We shouldn't just consume, acquire, consume, put it in inventory. We should actually make more efficient use of what we can, acquire or lease. And I think that's going to be really a game changer for global economy to become really, really efficient. In saying that,
yeah,
I think the issues with the whole political movement is one, there is no trust anymore. I mean, I'll give you an example, and I don't want to necessarily get into the whole COVID vax.
No, yeah.
But I've had 13 surgeries, never ever considered any fear about going into the hospital. I'd be terrified to go into the hospital today. And I would be less terrified if I could go into the hospital and all the drugs that they're going to put in my body are on the blockchain, and I can verify it, certify it, and know exact. And I am Gary Cardone, and there is no other Gary Cardone. Like we're at a point that we have a solution for lack of trust. And the people that don't want to deploy that solution remove all opacity from the market. This is an analog construct of politicians doing things in back rooms. I think all of this is going to get disrupted. And because the last 70 years of politics has failed us, period, nonstop. You can pick one or two good politicians out. I feel let down. I see no one in control. If these were CEOs of major corporations or even minor corporations, they would have already failed.
Yeah.
And they're making millions of dollars, I really do like this whole citizen journalism, maybe citizen politics. I'd like to see voting on the blockchain. Like where there is obscurity and opaqueness, there is crime, period. It always. Opacity, Enron, black box. Well, you were too young to remember that.
Well, I do know about Enron, but yes.
Fascinating. Like I lived the whole thing, and Enron got a premium in their stock price because they pitched to Wall Street that their black box of accounting and mark to market was special. And then we found out, their black box was just like FTX. It's just a lot smaller. And happened over a lot. Now, the funny thing is, Enron was right. Like what they predicted, fiber would trade, we'd be trading digits. They were absolutely right. They grossly underestimated how long it would take and how much money. And I think we're there again today, right? People are underestimating how long this is going to take and how much it's going to cost. This transition to transparency. Did
you have a light bulb moment or a significant year in your life when you were like, holy cow, all of this is just, there's too much backdoor dealing, it's too corrupt? Like, did you kind of have a wake up moment, or since like the JFK assassination was one of the first things you experienced in your life, were you always kind of like this?
I have always been able to not get sucked into the crowd. I have been that guy, the bit of an outsider. Don't necessarily like joining clubs. The whole fraternity thing for me was like, I'm not joining a fraternity, man. I mean, one, I get in a lot of trouble, and I just don't. I've just never been that guy, right? So, don't like long lines. Don't like restaurants that are full. Hate waiting. So, my observation skills started in school. Things did not make sense to me. I would have teachers make rules, but not then enforce the rules. So I became really uncomfortable with the education system. I was hoping when I got out of school, Sam, I remember seeing my father when I was 6, and he was a stock trader, stockbroker, and saw this little ticker symbol coming out of a machine. And I was fascinated. I thought my father was a global shaper, right? He was a businessman. He was creating jobs for people and doing important things. And at 21 years old, or 20, when I got out of college, I could not wait to leave the town I was in. I got a job, only to start work that next Monday and realize, oh my God, these guys aren't the saviors of the world. These guys are a bunch of brown nosers who are just here for the commission, the bonus, the 401k, but we're not really doing anything awesome. That was really like disturbing for me, because the political side had already gone. For me, the political side was already like, okay, this is just a big club, which it is. It's a membership. It's a private country club membership, and if you're not invited, and I will never be invited to the club. And these exist in every country. I spent 10 years in London, and then went back and spent another 4 years, and have had, major bank guys look at me and go, Gary, you're never going to be invited to the club. Very nicely too. They're telling me you're out, and there are secret handshakes, and that's sad. That's not capitalism. That's and like I have learned now that regulation actually means taxation of the super companies, so that the small companies can't get big. And literally, when regulation shows up, it's actually going to be really bad for the consumer, and it's going to be great for big enterprise. I mean, if Google were to go get regulated tomorrow, I'd probably buy their stock, because 40 years has shown every company that's regulated. I mean, look at Visa and MasterCard. If ExxonMobil made what Visa and MasterCard make as a net operating margin, 51% net operating margin, 40 and 50-year-old companies. Google makes 24%, by the way. Exxon makes 10% net operating margin. If ExxonMobil owns 72% of the fossil fuel market in the United States, what do you think we'd be doing to them right now? But Visa and MasterCard, who do something around a transaction, it's a digital transaction, and they make a clip of everything: refunds, transactions, declines, chargebacks, penalty fees, fines. They charge pornography people, which is legal merchant category code, 300% more than they charge a guy selling a banana. Why? It's legal. It's a legal transaction code. Gaming, gambling, they're legal. Why do you charge more for them? Oh, brand risk. Oh, brand risk. So your shareholders okay taking porn if you get paid 300%, 3x what you get paid for the grocery. That's your morality on your share price. Like, it's either right or wrong, right? It's either legal or not legal. And all these transactions are what? No one's ever seen a payment transaction. They don't exist. It's a click and a ledger, right? It's literally a click and a ledger, a flawed ledger, but it's a ledger nonetheless.
It reminds me of 2000, 2008. A lot of people were talking about the banking regulation that we needed, and there were some very famous politicians who are now very anti-crypto, who always said they were going to war with the banks. And when you dig into it, really what they were going to war with was your small community bank.
Correct.
And so since then, small community banks have gone by the wayside, and those are the people who actually invest in the community. You can get a loan because you know the owner. They're very close, very tied to now everything's just big banks. And now we have this label of, like institutionally or nationally important institutions, essentially saying we've chosen a mafia of 6 big banks that we will never let fail. And so when we had the recent bank failures, everyone fled into those institutions. So you're exactly right. Regulations just a barrier to entry. And so the largest companies love it.
Yeah. And it's going to get worse. I think we have 4,400 banks, and I think Jamie Dimon or Larry Fink was on CNBC just yesterday saying, "Hey, look, it's just too many banks." When I started, well, it's not competitive. I mean, the truth is, in order for America to be like things have changed from where during your career in the last 4 years, we have gone from we are going to globalize and connect everything to everything to, we're global, but we're going to hate each other. We're going to all fight for market share. We're going to have MICA. We're going to have BRICS. We're going to have a Brexit exit, which I think is going to end up being great for the UK. The European zone is going to have its own trading era because, quite frankly, their currency is absolutely worthless. I do not know how the euro is hanging up here without a peg being fixed by some government officials and going, we're not letting this peg blow out. Which, I've begged to ask this question for 25 years and no one's ever been able to answer it. No one, not one economist. Why does the UK pound sterling trade at a 30% premium to the US dollar? And why does the euro trade at 8% premium to the US dollar and has always done so? It's why would the UK, which is, they have no production whatsoever. They're pirates, right? They literally live on an island, finite resources, do not produce energy anymore. They're short energy, they're short food, they're short everything. The regulators won't let them produce anything. Their energy prices have spiked astronomically in the last 2 years from this pipeline explosion. This small little pipeline that blew up between Russia and Germany just happened.
That we don't know
catch on fire.
Who blew up. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, we're playing, the politicians are playing with supply chains. Yeah. See, I think that the United States of America with their allies blew that pipeline up. Okay. I think they did it intentionally. They did it. Why would they do it? There's 2 reasons. One, political motivation to ensure that Germany would not buy energy from Russia, who had been put on the sanction list. Because, the Germans would have probably said, hey, we're buying this energy. It's cheap. Russia has always Russia has provided really good and very reliable energy to Europe. It is a lie to say that they have been hammering the Europeans. It has been cheaper than the supply coming from the North Sea. So it's just a lie, right? For them to break that was one, I think, wanting NATO to stay together, because as soon as Germany kept buying that nat gas from Germany, they're part of NATO from Russia, right? So they're like, okay, we can't buy it, but we can't let our people freeze. Remember, this was going into winter. We're going to go into another winter here. It's November. It's snowing places now in Europe, and they got lucky last year with a very, very warm winter. The other economic impact, though, that's really staggering is immediately the producers from the United States started selling long-dated LNG to the Germans. Okay. And we have the Germans that were paying, maybe $200 a megawatt, now having to pay $2,000. So I don't know when that correction comes, but I think Germany's completely broke. And I do not know what the Merkels or any of those politicians do. You basically have all these politicians now, what I call an oligopoly structure, which is actually the easiest construct for us to break up, because you just need to start having 1 or 2 of those countries in so much pain that they break ranks with allies. And then you start this game theory. I keep thinking Turkey or some wild card's going to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet, and that will start a frenzy of, hey, what the heck was that? Because that's what I would be doing if I was running a country. There is no doubt I would be putting Bitcoin in my treasury for no other reason to leapfrog the other players that will have to eventually do this.
So do you think we're just seeing the infrastructure of the post, World War II economy just completely break down, not even just abroad, but at home?
Boys. I think the whole analog construct of the last 300 or 400 years is collapsing. We don't even need to make it wrong. I just think the speed by which this planet's moving now, the way we are disintermediated but connected. I think if you do believe that this is like the 1960s, I think people are getting in a point of almost getting active again.
Yeah.
Like our country has become extremely apathetic. And when I look at the state of our politics and our economy, I blame myself. I mean, I look in the mirror and go, hey, man, you got too apathetic. Your voice isn't big enough. And quite frankly, it's been because I've been scared. I've been scared that if I am honest about what I see going on, big clients that I do business with won't deal with me. All this woke stuff. I mean, we've really gone out of our way to polarize ourselves. And see this latest Israeli-Palestine thing is like, oh my God, what other scenario could you come up with that would polarize the world more than this? It's like, I'm scared to ask a Jewish person a question now. Like, scared, right? It's gotten so hot. And a year ago, I was scared to ask you if you vaxxed. I was scared that, hey, you going to do remote or not? I mean, we are at a very, very interesting time in the world. And I'm hoping that this digital revolution is actually going to help us transition without a total Mad Max, a total Mad Max kind of moment, which would benefit the Maxis. They get their wish.
I know. Do you think Bitcoin and blockchain technology can fix social cohesion? Because I always say at the end of the day, they're still just tools. I don't know if they necessarily change human nature. And that's something that I struggle with. So like a lot of what we're talking about the dynamics of human nature. So do you think that will happen, or do you think it will at least hurt the current corrupt system and let us start from scratch and hopefully maybe build something better?
I think it gives the observant an edge. If you're observant, or if you have so much pain and so much upside, because your downside's like you're in South Africa and you have a telephone that you and your entire family share. We've become so spoiled, right? Every one of my family members has at least one phone. They're going to share a phone. If they have Starlink, they will be able to move some money in a way that they've never, ever been able to do. They will also, I think, be able to produce energy or money in exchange for their gifts. The example I use is, imagine if Michelangelo would have been born in Mauritius, South Africa, a little tiny island, and not near the Vatican. We would never, ever have known Michelangelo. So I think we're getting ready to get to know some of the most brilliant people on the planet. Imagine if we found 3 more Elons, man, or 2 more Teresa Marie's, Mother Teresa, or anybody that's actually bringing a little value to the planet. Granted, we're going to meet some naughty boys, but naughty guys and girls. But I just think that human nature, that we're going to discover some really, really, really awesome people who will then, I think, have ideas that will permeate a globe. And these ideas, they only have to get picked up by a very small percentage of the overall population. No one has ever tapped into 8 billion people before. That we are tapping into 8 billion. Why am I doing this with you? You and I met virtually. You've been to my home now twice. Like, we're developing a relationship through the metaverse. The metaverse, this is better than me going to a bar, man. I go to a bar, I got to stay up till 8. I go to the bar, it's not really the right bar. Like, I can go and get on Twitter Spaces or LinkedIn or whatever the future is going to be. This is becoming real now. I mean, we are in the metaverse. People talk about when we're going to go there. We're there. And we're going to look back today and go, wow, we were doing 8-track tapes. You don't even remember what an 8-track tape is. Okay. But this is going to be like 8-track tapes, right? Glitching. People don't know how to do it. People get on these Zoom calls and they don't even light up the video because they're uncomfortable, right? It's just something new for everyone. But I am actually learning how to like reach into this camera. And I'm not good at it, but I'm learning how to reach into it and come very, very close to having at least 85% type of experience that I have face to face with another human being. Like, I love connecting to another human being because I'm connecting to their heart, their brain, them as a human. Like, hey, how did you get here? Because I'm interested in that. And I think, you and I together are more powerful than we are separate.
Absolutely.
So, right now, there's a lot of polarization in the world. I mean, look what Vivek's done. Like him, don't like him. He did 108 podcasts in the first month.
Yeah, that dude his strategy is great because he's not scared. A lot of our politicians are scared to talk to anybody. Vivek is like, nope, I'll go on anything. I'll talk to anybody. He's a good speaker. And he has a lot of good points.
Well, I think he's got a story and he's sticking to it. Like, I think I could be a decent politician. I don't think anybody would vote for me because of my life.
Well, you never know.
But I am so bloody honest. Like, I don't understand why a politician cannot get on a podcast like this. Like, you and I took 1 minute to set up here. I don't do, hey, what you going to ask me, man? Send me the list of questions. I don't have anything to hide, right?
Yep.
I have zero to hide, zero things to hide. And I don't know why the politician wouldn't want to just, hey, this is my position. And I think the reason is because they're professional politicians. And I'm done. I'm done voting for them. Like, if you're a professional politician, I don't care what you stand for. I won't vote for you because I don't think you can I think you've already cut a deal with someone.
Yep.
It's a cesspool, man. Like, it's a country club. Even when the older guys leave, let's say the mature guys are there, I'll guarantee you, you'll laugh at me on this one, but I'll guarantee you there's 22-year-old interns that are working for these senators and congressmen. They're sticking a monster amount of drugs in their body, okay, every day. They're betting on these bills in the background. I guarantee you there's pools of bettors. Hey, let's bet $1,000 on this bill getting passed, and we're going to be able to insert this one word that basically bastardizes the entire bill. That is going on, okay, every day. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Totally. So they don't have control to actually make good change. So what do? They're sitting in the background betting on it, okay? And they're betting. I mean, to me, that's degrading. Okay, that we're betting on our children's future, on our Constitution, and the way we look. I think we're at civil war. Outside of the muskets and the blue coats and the red coats, I do not believe our government could make a decision on anything. They don't want to. So they overtly are disagreeing with each other. Like a marriage, a bad marriage, and they can't get divorced. They agree on that. There's no mediation. And I think, it's you and I that are being abused here. So I'd like to see a politician walk in and say, I'm going to put 30 or 40% of all U.S. government spend on the blockchain, on the public blockchain. And no entity can run a blockchain without it being public.
What's your perspective on operating within the system and outside the system? So even just given what you just said, you kind of have this idea of, for Bitcoin's outside the system. We can grow it, grow the infrastructure. It can't be stopped. We want to continue adoption. But then exactly, we would love to see a politician who says we're going to put stuff on the blockchain. We don't want them to regulate Bitcoin to where the average consumer can't use it, which is what I think they're going to try to do actually with some of these spot ETFs. I think what we're seeing now is Wall Street realizing Bitcoin's a great product, trying to put up the barriers to entry through financialization. And then if you're an American consumer, say it needs to be a Bitcoin ETF, we don't want you actually holding the actual Bitcoin. What's your philosophy on operating within the system or going around it, and which one you think is more effective, if not both at the same time?
Well, I would never encourage anyone to do anything illegal.
Yeah, and when I say around the system, I don't mean illegal. I just mean like you can build parallel infrastructure. It's like, okay, if I'm not going to be banked, how can I build either my own bank, buy a bank, or how can I completely go unbanked?
Yeah. I think the more we let the old system crumble, we don't need to, I don't think you need to talk about one or the other. The other system is just falling apart. It's 200 years old. It's not even, quite frankly, the financial system has been brilliant based on a pencil and a piece of paper with a ledger. It has been. You do need a central authority for money. And what is money? Money, I think currency is communication. We raised some money here the other night. Well, we raised near $40,000 for some families from firefighters. What is that? It's communication, man. Hey, we love you guys. Thank you for taking care of us. We're grateful for being successful enough to be able to make some donations to you. It is a communication to the world, to them, to ourselves. We're taking our responsibility. I love paying my taxes. Okay, I hate paying taxes when we're killing people. Like really, my taxes are going to killing people, and I think I'm a little bit of a baby, a little bit of a girl, because I don't fight the system and go, no, I'm not sending you my taxes. I'll fight you in court. Stop hurting people in countries that have nothing to do with us. Nothing. Okay, I would rather pay $400 for crude oil all day long. I'd rather pay $12 for gasoline. The system's broken. They're trying to control everything. And I think Bitcoin blockchain comes at a really, really, really interesting time. And not everyone has to do this. I get very frustrated with my friends and some of my friends in the Bitcoin community because they tell people what they should do and be doing. And I thought this was about freedom. And the freedom should be to let everyone do whatever the fuck they want to do. Like, stop controlling people. If someone wants to buy Pinky Dinky coin, as long as Pinky Dinky coin was very obvious and clear, this is a piece of shit of a piece of fiat. It's worse than the US government, because at least with the US government, if we go down, they're going down. But with these guys, I mean, these are scams, total lottery ticket scams, and there's no money behind the lottery. So I say, if you're going to play in all these other coins, call yourself a gambler. And I'd rather have a poker game at my house and let's go all spend 10 grand and have fun. But let's call it what it is. Okay, it's just fun. Bitcoin is a way for you and I to hedge against my thesis. And my thesis is, we have a bunch of politicians that must have had prior lives in Rome, and they're just repeating their cycle of degradation. But all countries have failed. All great empires have failed that produce or consume more than they produce. And all countries have failed that extended their military might into the marketplace, got so thin, they ended up losing their position, because these parasites do one thing: they're parasitic. find a host, suck the blood out of it. I think the U.S. citizen has become that host. And Bitcoin offers me an immunization, a vaccine, a protection against further and future abuse that they seem addicted to. You know, I have this saying, and it's like, you know, monopolies never compete. Monopolies will never survive a competitive environment. And the reason is because they don't have to compete. It's a monopoly. You know, they just kind of agree on general pricing. So, you know, when Visa, MasterCard charge 3% for a transaction that you can do for zero, I don't know why more corporates should do this. And I think that's where you're going to see this this ETF. This is adoption. Okay. This is what it looks like. And it's actually the right sequence. It is not going to come from the underbanked. It's going to come from how many people are stuck in programs. There's chunks of my wealth I can't invest directly into Bitcoin. It's complicated. People don't seem to understand. It's not just like you can just go, hey, I'm going to go do Bitcoin this afternoon. So I've had to do surrogates, man. I got into GBTC because but I had to, right? Because the bank did not.
Yeah.
Once the ETF offers, is there? I don't have to do these surrogates. So that's going to be really valuable. I think the more people like me, I was early to this space compared, you know, relative to who I am, you know, this group of people, these wealthy people. We haven't seen any of these people come in. Once they come in and they see the return, politicians are going to get out of the way. Politicians are gone. That right now, they're just trying to get votes. Okay? Anybody votes for Elizabeth Warren worth $80 million. Any politician that's worth that much money, total criminal.
Well, and she's one of the 100 Congress people who is essentially trying to use a slim, this article that's really a terrible article to ensure that any crypto transaction has to go through KYC, so it's not linked to terrorism. And it was 96 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And if that just shows you how much influence Elizabeth Warren has. And it's very interesting that, especially at a time like this, how much they seem to be attacking crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And my gut tells me it's because if you're running an economy poorly, where unemployment's high and inflation's high, people want to store their wealth somewhere else. But you've jacked up all the interest rates. You have BlackRock buying up all the real estate. So your average person is going to flee cash and buy whatever is easiest. And Bitcoin for your average person is very easy to buy. So if you want to stop them from fleeing the dollar, and you've already stopped them from going into housing and more traditional markets they want to get, you got to start creating barriers to entry for crypto. And that would be my logic. Do you think that's accurate, or am I off target?
I think you're on target. Look, I've done this 5 times. I go into industries that nobody wants what I'm selling. Right? They're like, because I sell transparency. Okay, when we started the natural gas business, the whole concept was, hey, take this away from this is way back in the 90s, right? The early 90s. Take away the control from the construct of a monopoly structure. Let the market work. Supply and demand always works. You know, there has not been an interruption of kilowatts or decatherms of energy in the United States, and I cannot tell you how long. There have been bankruptcies. There have been failures. People have blown out. Kilowatts keep flowing. The decatherms keep flowing. People keep their houses warm. Question is price. Okay. In Germany, they're getting spanked pretty bad, but the markets work very, very well. They work better than transactions being done with credit cards for gum and dildos, which is hilarious, right? You have all this friction selling retail, but you have no friction in the oil markets, nat gas markets, or power markets. Most valuable products on the planet define whether you're a first, second, or third world nation Zero friction. You have 8% refunds in online transactions, 1% chargebacks, 12% declines in a first world nation. It's like the whole system's broken. So I think all of these people always behave the same way. Okay. When you have control of a cartel club, you don't want it to break up. You don't want that 51% net operating margin that's artificial to go away. Remember, they're not capable of competing. It's not in their definition book. When you have a monopoly, you do everything you can to keep it. When you don't have one like me, and you can't afford to buy one, like I can't afford to buy one, and I wouldn't, because I don't want to be that guy. You go beat one up. Okay, that's the Gary's maxim. If you don't own a monopoly, if you own a monopoly, make sure you hold on to it at all costs. If you don't own one, figure out how you can buy one or merge with one. And if you can't do either of those, go beat one up. Blockchain and you and I and this disintermediated citizen journalism, and then the ability to buy Bitcoin, this is going to be death by a billion cuts. Okay. Just millions of people taking $10 away from the system. I did a $3.5 million transaction and paid $12 for it with Bitcoin. Crazy. Okay. From 5 banks, all 5 banks, total charge was $12. These people can't compete at this. Circle's making $70 million a month on stable fees, just tiny checks on big volumes. Citibank does not want that business. The problem is, because for them, that's normally $300 million a month. That's their normal fee. So they don't want that low margin business, because they're going to be, it dilutes the other pool of their business. Once they accept that small little fee, everything ends up sliding right down to that. So they won't even take it. But the funny thing is, Circle's sitting there going, we love this. We didn't have it last month. It's $70 million. This is where this market's going. It's going to go where all the margins just collapse, man. And legacy hates that. Okay, legacy. So when you introduce, this is a commodity market. And in commodity markets, when you introduce transparency, a number of things always happen. Transparency to all players leads to commoditization. Commoditization leads to margin destruction. Right? ExxonMobil got $82.37 for the crude oil this morning. Not a penny more. Not a penny more than I sold some crude oil this morning. They got the same price I got. So ExxonMobil's credit and its label doesn't get a premium. Why would Raytheon or Rayvac get a premium? Because they put a little label around a freaking pair of batteries, right? Or the Juicy Fruit gum gets a premium because it's got, like, all of this is going to get massively commoditized. Then volumes will explode. This is what the banks like the volume play, but they don't like the margin degradation. And any public company, dude, public companies don't want any of this. None of this, okay? And I predict payments will start accepting digital, not because we force it, but because the merchants who are getting rogered, absolutely rogered right up the bum, which is resulting in consumers paying too much. This is a consumer play. We should be complaining as a Bitcoin community that the old legacy system is abusing the smallest consumers in the world. That should be our pitch. As a lobbyist, that's the pitch, man. Okay, Visa's making 51% net operating margin. If that was ExxonMobil, they would be in prison, I think. Okay, we'd have taxes all over the place. Why we let Visa, MasterCard do it? Okay, why? And by the way, why do we let them? Because Visa, MasterCard don't make any fees on me. Okay, they make fees on the small guy. That's the other non-democratic issue here. I never pay late penalty fee. There's $7 trillion in late penalty fees and NSF, man. That all goes away. Eventually. It's not going to go away tomorrow, but it's going to be like mercury. Okay, Bitcoin is literally just going to gravitate, just like AI is going to gravitate to the most expensive hours, the doctors, the surgeons, the lawyers. It's not going after McDonald's, man. AI is going to go after the 300. My airline pilot. Why do I have two pilots? I pay them 185 grand, dude. I'll take one pilot with AI, right? So these are massive, massive arbitrages that are going to occur once the robots show up. I think my robot that's going to be my assistant or my girlfriend. Who knows, man? Like, who knows? This thing is moving very, very fast. You laugh, but
you're right.
I think there'll be a time when my robot is sending your robot money, and they're going to do it digitally, and they're going to do it with stats.
And hopefully they're at least letting us know and not doing it behind our backs.
Well, I think there'll be a balance sheet. We'll know what's happening.
Yeah. I'll never forget. And this was, mind you, 3 or 4 years ago, Facebook was messing with AI, and they had two AI models talking to each other, and the AI made their own language. And the people monitoring them couldn't. They were like, "Oh shoot," because the AI figured out it was more efficient to communicate in their own made-up language.
Sure.
And that was before the ChatGPT craze. So I'm like, what else are they hiding on the A side? It's just, you're right. It's incredible how fast this moves. Well, and it isn't getting any slower.
And how slow.
Yes.
It is. It's clunky though. See, it's really going to be, and everyone in the community thinks it's really stupid. This is the way it happens though. Okay, this is how all innovation enters a marketplace. First, you have an idea, then that idea takes hold, and then you have to build regulation around it. And people are pretending, Elizabeth, idiot, Warren, that regulation comes first. Excuse me, regulation always comes after. The car was built before the road was built, before the safety belts, before the dashboard, before the speeding limits, before the stop signs, and before the yield signs, right? And now the roads are going to have to change again because now we have electric automation. There aren't going to be automated, fully drive cars, automated. And you know what I would do to a bunch of Teslas? I just take my big Range Rover, knock them into the Teslas, knock them right off the road. One little snap, man, they're frozen up. So you can't have me on the road. Well, you can't. You can't have humans and the robot. Now, at some point, you're going to have to go, hey, we're digital now. So if I would have told my mother, who's been dead now 12 years, that we were going to go from vinyl records, man, to Gary being able to carry 40,000 audio digital files, perfect, and have a headphone set that's remote, carry it around with me the last 16 hours, we would have laughed, man. We would have laughed. If you would have told me that I could get in touch with a guy running for president of the United States in the year 2023 and have breakfast with him because of Twitter, wow. It's unbelievable, okay, the amount of connection we have. Human beings are now able to plug right into the wall. And I think that's what our digital economy is about. The consumer can plug right in, direct to the wall, to the source of the electricity, and most of the other players are going to be removed from the system unless they're adding value. I think that's a great market. And anybody that's scared of that, simply scared, whether it's a politician. That's why I like the politicians going, hey, at least 30% of our spend is going to be on the public blockchain. We have a right to know what the hell is going on here. Now, I appreciate we didn't have the technology. Let's just use that as an excuse. We did not have the technology to be transparent before. God bless you. Poor politicians that have suffered through this analog era, but we're here now.
Yeah.
And guys like you do, like, how old are you?
26.
Yeah, you're 26 years old. You're behaving like a 38-year-old, mature. No, really. Well, you are, dude. Like, you're an impressive 26-year-old man. But you're going to be the politicians of our future. And I don't even think there's going to even be a question of how we're doing this. What we need to do is get rid of these old people, though. And I can say that. I'm their age. They're old here, they're old here, and they've got their hand in the old world. They're getting paid from the old world. See, I don't get paid from the old world, which is really interesting, right? I don't get paid from the old world, not scared about my money being lost from the old world. And I'm sitting here 65 years old going, hey, we have to fix all this stuff. And we have the tools now. I mean, we have the ability to put 1 million or 2 million people to work that that barely finished high school. They need no education whatsoever, do not need a college degree. They can come into the blockchain industry. They need some general manners. They need to know how to communicate, show up on time. But like, when was the last time you've seen a world where you could literally put 2 million people to work that have no prior education? They can't go to NASA. But in blockchain and Bitcoin, they don't have to buy Bitcoin. Come work for me. Come work for you. You know 4 people right now that want to hire people and they can't find the right people.
Yep, 100%.
Like so, and I don't think we're fully employed. When you're miserable at your work, you're not fully employed. So all these people saying they're miserable, it's like, okay, well then you're not fully employed, because you're 10% of the day you're looking for a job. You're not fully employed there for sure. So and I think blockchain really offers, and Bitcoin offers, a way for people that don't want to work for someone to produce their own material and sell it without getting hammered by a bunch of middlemen. I think of the artists, man. I mean, you got artists selling art online now for $300-400. This is why I hate the art market. I'm trying to be an artist. Everybody says, hey, why don't you sell your art? I'm like, well, I'm not going to sell it for $300. That's embarrassing. But they're able to do it because they have no middlemen, right? They're going direct to, I mean, it's like we're opening up a whole new world here that is, if I'm a legacy player, I'm a little nervous. If I'm an oil and gas player, I'm excited. I am very excited. The oil and gas players, this is who we should lobby, okay? And I can help you do this. We should lobby the oil and gas players to help us, because they're going to be the biggest Bitcoin producers on planet Earth. Everyone else, I do not get what the miners are doing right now. I think I'm going to build the case that since the beginning of time of Bitcoin's life, it has always been cheaper to buy Bitcoin than to mine it. Still to this day, better risk reward capital, use of capital is to buy Bitcoin here. You don't need to produce it and take the exposure of energy inputs. You know what I'm saying? People complain about how much they're making so little on mining. I'm like, yeah, I think everyone was always better. $7 Bitcoin. They were stealing electricity. Okay, those coins have theft on them because nobody was paying for the electricity. It was zero.
Yeah.
That is where we'll end up, by the way. Zero input. That's my prediction. Zero input costs. Green is not going to fuel Bitcoin. It's going to be the dirtiest energy on the planet. And that's a really, really, really good thing. It's very positive for the environment.
I agree with you 100%. I'm actually looking at some landfills here in Florida who are getting fined by the EPA for too much methane. And I'm telling them, like, I can not only have you never get fined again, but I can have you turn that methane into a very valuable asset. So not only am I saving you money, I'm making you money. You couldn't ask for a better situation.
Yeah. I think the disruption on that side of the business, I mean, I think you're going to have nukes selling shaped energy, not base load. You know, most people don't understand nukes are on or off. It's 100% or zero, maybe not 100%, but it's full on. And so they have to sell at the lowest cost to the marketplace as a base load seller, about 3 cents a kilowatt, which most Bitcoin miners would be like, wow, I can buy 3 cents. No, not really. Yeah. You can't, but the nukes sell it for 3 cents. But imagine if they could sell, instead of base load 24/7, they could sell, hey, you only have to take it, 16 hours a day. and give us notice, 1 second notice, and they divert to Bitcoin. Now they're selling for 5.5 cents. Their shareholders will be ecstatic. Okay. And the grid won't need you guys to do load balancing because the nukes are doing it. And then you're going to end up with Putin and the guys in the Middle East. Their input costs are going to be zero. So no Bitcoin miner can tell me that they're not going to always be able to make money because the use of the energy going in is going to be zero. Now, if you have 7 cents a kilowatt, I think you get killed. You get killed if there's somebody. Why would you transport? They just blew your pipes up. Why would you transport? Right? It costs $3 to move that stuff from Siberia all the way down to Germany. They'll just put up platforms right back at the wellhead, man. But if the transport is that heavy, shit, I'll just mine Bitcoin and then I'll stick it in a USB port and there is no transportation cost. The pipelines don't make any money.
Yep.
Hell, Amazon, the storage company is going to make some money. And that's it. Then we have game theory on, dude. I think we're over there. I predict Russia will be one of the largest Bitcoin producers in the next 12 months.
One, I've heard rumors that actually they are secretly mining Bitcoin, but very hard to prove, not verified. But I've heard some whispers in the wind.
It would be absolutely stupid for them not to. They are very bright people, and they don't sell anywhere near how much energy. I mean, OPEC just dumped, not OPEC, but the Middle East said, "Hey, we're going to dump 1 million barrels. We're going to pull it off the market." Okay, well, they can pull it off the market, but they could also just go mine it. They can pull it off the market and mine it, right? Like nobody's going to know those barrels are in the market. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Well, Gary, that's all the time I got for you today. You're definitely right. I'm going to have you back on because I do not have enough time to talk to you. We could probably go for another hour. But I'm appreciative of your hour here today, seriously, and you coming on the show. And who knows where we'll be politically 3 months from now.
I think it's going to be up to us.
Absolutely.
I have never been involved in politics. And for the first time, I'm literally raising my hand going, hey, if somebody's actually doing something good, I'll help. Because this thing's just so messed up. We have to get out of our apathy. We have become an apathetic nation. So I'll raise my hand. I'll give money. I'll give my time. I'll give my energy if I can find an honest guy to support.
And that's the hard part.
If I can't find an honest guy, I want a guy that breaks everything up. Dude. I don't care how. They just need to be as legitimate as their counterparty, Russia, China, Germany. I need a ball busting negotiator. I don't really care what he's done in his personal life, how he talks. I talk funny, man. You would go to war with me, dude. Okay. If you and I, if there was a war, you'd be like, hey, I want to be on Gary's team because I'm not going to bail on you.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much, man.
All right, Gary. Thank you.